What's up guys, Sebastian here with Waltgrace Vintage. A while back we did a video reviewing the Gibson Custom Shop 60th Anniversary 61 SG reissue. And the premise of that video was to really analyze if these new guitars were catching up to the golden era of Gibson. You know, if the Custom Shop was able to accurately reproduce a guitar that, well, was up to the level of those built during the 50s and 60s. And we got a lot of very mixed responses, but the outcome of the video was that regardless of whether it was up to it, it was a fantastic guitar that was truly a great instrument on its own, whether it was a reissue or not. Today, we'll actually be comparing a real 1961 SG versus the reissue. So like I was saying, this guitar is an original 1961 SG, the first year that it came out. It's actually not even fair to call it an SG. As you can see in the headstock here, it says Les Paul. And the reason why that happened is because up until 1963, the guitarist Les Paul had a contract with Gibson to endorse their instruments and having his name on the headstock. The Les Paul, as we know it, was a signature guitar. That contract ended in 1963, so all the guitars made from 61 to 63 that have, well, this shape were actually named Les Paul and later relabeled as SG. So technically, this is a Les Paul. There's a lot of key features that identify those guitars as very unique instruments as compared to the ones that came later on. And some of the specs that come with it are very, very accurate. So starting off, you have this sideways vibrola tremolo that you find in both guitars. Originals came with PAF pickups. In this case, this one does not have the original pickups. These are throwback reissues that actually sound very similar to PAFs. And I feel like it's more of a fair comparison considering that these are custom bucker pickups. They're also PAF replicas. And a lot of the experts attribute the sound of those original guitars to the pickups. So I feel like it's fair to have both reissue pickups in these two guitars and really see how they compare. The neck profile is wider and flatter, and this guitar copies it perfectly. You can also see how the headstock is slightly larger with having the logo, you know, slightly higher up, and this one has it as well. So in that regard, they're very, very similar. I would say like the main difference between these two guitars happens to be the way they're actually finished at the factory. You can really tell that there's a lot more of a handmade element to this guitar, and it's truly not perfect, but I feel like that's part of the magic. So for example, starting off with the fretboard, the way the inlays are carved, they're not perfect, but you can see how there's like a growth between the actual inlay on the wood. You can see how the actual resin or the lacquer is coming through and how the hole is not perfectly made. It's almost like if somebody hand carved it. In this case, it's almost like a machine did it. So this one has some handmade elements to it, but not fully. The other thing is the contours of the body. This one is much smoother. It was sanded by hand and it really got it down to a very smooth point. Here, it is still smooth, but it's definitely a lot sharper. The edges of the fretboard, they are rolled slightly in this guitar. In this one, you have a much more pronounced roll. And that's something that naturally happens with a lot of guitars, that they get rolled over time as you play it. But I don't think that's the case with this one, as your hand can really scrap away plastic from the binding. So it came rolled from the factory. The other thing is, for example, the neck joint here, it's a lot smoother. If you compare it to this one, it has a bit more of a gap. So again, it's very subtle, but it might make a difference for some. I personally really appreciate having an old guitar like this and just the little details, you know, how the aging is actual real aging and it's not being distressed at the factory, right? This one has a VOS finish, whether this one is, well, it's just old, right? And I kind of like those details a lot. The fact that, well, it has the handmade element to it. Other than that, they're very close instruments. So if for you that's justifiable, go ahead and get the old one. Otherwise, I feel like you'd be just as good buying a brand new custom shop guitar. Now, the amp that we'll be using for this comparison is this 1965 Fender Pro Reverb, which I gotta say, it's probably the cleanest, most original Pro that we've had here at the gallery. The amp is almost 100% bone stock, for exception of the 3-prong cable, which was recently replaced. Let's be honest, no one wants to get shocked, so it's almost a must with these old amps. The amp sounds fantastic. We'll be running it at 2 different settings, one with the volume down so you can hear some of the natural breakup, and then the other one at a lower setting so you can hear the clean sound of the amp. I love how Fender amps paired up with Gibsons, and if it's an old Gibson, even better. So let's go ahead and check it out. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to pick up any of this gear for yourselves, I'll be listing it down below in the description. I would like to know what you guys think about this comparison, so let us know down below in the comment section. Also, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. If you want more content like this, follow us on Instagram at @WaltGraceVintage. My name is Sebastian. Until next time.